Stephen Bannon, Stephen Miller, Michael Anton, Sebastian Gorka. Those are 4 people who are currently being paid by the US taxpayer who ascribe to an ideology that you could call a sort of cleaned up version of white nationalism. The alt-right, as they like to call themselves, are sort of fulfilling what David Duke tried to do in the 1980s, which is to take the white supremacist movement and intellectualize it and sort of inject it with sort of a youth and put it in a suit.
And Steve Bannon says, I'm not a white nationalist, I'm an economic nationalist.
Right. And they've reframed what they see as the global fight, and it isn't just in the United States that they see this, as not being a fight of East and West, but a fight of North to South. That essentially the Muslim world, the brown people, the non-Christian people want to overtake white European society. And they see, for instance, Russia and Vladimir Putin as fighting on behalf of white Christianity, and the United States as weak for not focusing on what they see as economic nationalism. But it's a very particular kind. It's anti-immigrant, it's very anti-Muslim, and it's fueling a resurgence in hate that I think was started in a lot of ways by the election of the first black president, but has been accelerated with the ascendancy of Donald Trump.
And Brendan, I want to get to you and your insights on how this is also pervading across the world, and particularly in Europe. But first of all, I need to give you my condolences for your wife, Jo Cox, who was murdered, and leading up to the Brexit vote. I know that was an incredibly harrowing chapter in your life. Dig into both aspects for it. You are an unintentional activist, but now you're seeing this spread across Europe.
I think what's happening is not that suddenly a whole group of people have started hating people who didn't hate people before. I think what has happened is that hatred has been legitimized, whether that's by Donald Trump.
After the Brexit vote, there was a surge in hate crimes, 42% jump in England alone.
And it's not just in the UK, in France, in Germany. What we call populists, we should stop calling them populists. They are misogynists, they are racists, they are homophobes. And in most countries, they are deeply unpopular. There's nothing popular about these populists, so we should call them what they are and take them on, because actually the vast majority of people in our countries, in every country, do not subscribe to those views. They get overrepresented. They pretend that they're a silent majority. They're not silent and they're not majority.
Heidi, you took part in some of the investigation that showed links between the man who murdered Jo Cox and hate groups here in the States.
Yeah, this is an international movement. It doesn't have boundaries like people often think. The organization that Thomas Mehr, the assassin, was involved in is called the Nationalists. That was a born and bred United States organization with a rap sheet a mile long. So it's not surprising, actually, to see that they have members in all kinds of European countries, or that a member could commit violence on the scale.
And a lot of these groups, Joyanne, are here in the US, as you alluded to, the alt-right, funded by a lot of murky billionaires, frankly, and who fund news organizations or sites like Breitbart that call themselves news organizations. I interviewed Richard Spencer, who is the white nationalist who coined the phrase alt-right. Give me a sense of just how pervasive it is in the Trump base.
Yeah, sure. And of course, Richard Spencer claims to have been a mentor to Stephen Miller, who is now running policy in the White House.
And he's the one in the video who was saying, Heil Hitler, Heil Hitler. And
Richard Spencer was,
Richard Spencer, sorry, not Stephen Miller.
And so the alt-right, it's hard to quantify how large it is. It's a movement that really targets younger white tech-savvy people. So you find it in places like 4chan, and you find it in sort of what they call the dark web or the deep web. These are people who are pervasive on sites like Twitter, and they've now gone to alternative versions of Twitter. And what they do is they use what they call meme culture. They put out sort of memes that in their mind are funny and humorous as a way of luring people in. They don't use overtly white supremacist sentiment.